Good afternoon, class. This is Professor Campbell, and I wanted to take just a few minutes to introduce myself and to talk a little bit about this Worldviews course and what it means. I've taught this course for quite a number of years, and it continues to be one of my favorite courses to teach here at CCU. And for many of you, I realize, maybe all of you, it's a prerequisite that the university has for completing your greater purpose or the goal or the dream that you have to complete a degree. But I want to share with you that I think this is far more than that Worldviews is actually foundational. In fact, in Romans chapter 12, the Apostle Paul writes this. He says that we should not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but we should be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And in that way, we will be able to approve God's perfect will for us. So I think the Phillips translation says, don't let the world squeeze you into its mold, but instead be transformed by the renewing of your mind. What does that mean? That means ultimately transformation comes as we change what we believe. The scriptures are all about this thing called believing. It's about our mindset. It's about what we truly believe is real, what we give our life to, what we commit ourselves to. The concept of faith is that concept of believing and trusting. So, for example, John 1:12 says, as many as received him, that is Jesus, to those who believed in his name, he gave them the right to become children of God. Receiving and believing. We're transformed by the things that we believe. And your worldview is all about what you believe. What do you believe? Sire, in his book, Naming the Elephant, will talk about those 7 aspects of a worldview. One is, what is the really real? What is the essence of reality? What is the primary purpose that we're here on earth? What is prime reality? These things all have to do with what we believe to be true. Because what we believe ultimately is going to lead into our actions. You can't really live consistently, or at least not for very long, believing something and doing something opposite to what you believe. The philosophers call it cognitive dissonance. That is, we believe something, but we do something contradictory to what we actually believe. You can't live that way. So you will ultimately live out what you truly believe, which is why we talk about challenging assumptions in this course. Assumptions are not it's not wrong to have assumptions. We all have them. Assumptions are neither right or wrong until they're tested. Every assumption is simply something that I believe to be true. Now, I can believe that the world is flat. That's an assumption, right? But when we get out in a satellite in space and look down at the Earth from a different perspective, we discover the world is round. It's not flat. So I discover my assumption is not true. So every assumption that I hold has to be tested. And when we test it, just like testing the foundation of a house, and make sure that it's solid, it's on solid ground, then my belief becomes conviction. And ultimately, conviction is what we want to have so that we live our lives with integrity. We come into our true identity and we live into the destiny or the calling that God has in our lives. So our worldviews that we're going to be looking at here over the next 5 weeks are an opportunity for you to get clarity about what it is that you truly believe. And since I'm coming from a Christian worldview, and we'll talk about what that means, I believe that the scriptures, the Word of God, the Bible, has a lot to say. It is our measuring rod against which we test our assumptions. We need to have a measuring rod. If you have no measuring rod, then you have nothing to test your assumptions against. Then whatever you believe or I believe, it doesn't really matter, unless we have an objective standard. So that's one of the things we're going to be doing in this class, is looking at least one objective standard, and that is the scriptures. So as we go through the course, I am fine with you sharing what your assumptions are. I'm going to continually challenge you to say, where did you get that? How can you back up what you say you believe? And the reason I'm doing that is not to put you on the spot, but to help you to get clear about what's true, what isn't true, what you believe, what somebody's told you, and you believed it without thinking it through, and what really is true after you do some reflection. One of the key things that we want you to learn here at CCU is what we call critical reflection. You're going to hear it in every course. Critical reflection begins when we take the assumptions that we have and we run them through a filter, usually the scriptures, and we discover whether these assumptions hold water or they don't. And so we're either going to hold that assumption and it becomes a conviction, or we're going to modify it, or we're going to get rid of it altogether. So those are things that we're going to do in this course. One of the other fun exercises we'll do toward the end of the course is what we call a media analysis. And this becomes really important because so many things are coming at you day after day, whether it's through Facebook, other social media, television, movies, whatever. We have to be able to look at those things that come into our eye gates and our ear gates and evaluate them. Evaluate what's coming into us to see what worldview is being promoted here. Does that fit with the worldview I hold? Is what's being told to me true or not true? Because when we don't reflect on these things and just let them come in, they can actually take root there and become an assumption that we hold without really having thought it through or reflected on it. So we're going to do that in some cases because I want you to, at the end of the day, at the end of this course at least, I want you to be able to know very clearly what you believe and why, and how to evaluate what's coming toward you, whether it's someone that you interact with at the office or at school or in your neighborhood, whether it's media or news that's coming at you, so that you can go, I know what that's coming from. I know what that worldview is, and you can evaluate it from that standpoint and know where that's going to fit in your own grid, in your own belief system. So that's a lot that I've just laid on you, but we're going to unpack this together, and I'm excited to learn who you are, learn what your goals and dreams are, so that we can take this course, and I want to mold this course around who you are, so that you can get fully formed in your identity, so that when you're really clear about that, you know where you're going. Because God He's called us to a purpose. He's called us to a higher calling. And the Lord on high has a purpose and calling for each one of us that He wants to fulfill within us as sons and daughters, an inheritance that we have. So with that in mind, I bless you as we continue on this journey together, and I just pray that you will continue to have an open mind and be able to embrace what we're talking about and come through on the other side with your faith fully formed and with deep convictions in your heart. God bless you.